Hi, aligned souls. Welcome to the Soul Revival podcast, where we have meaningful conversations to help you explore tools and healing methods that help you return to your soul self. Join us as we help you merge the ethereal and the material worlds, allowing you to live your most fulfilling and aligned life. I'm Lindsay Stanton, author, somatic practitioner, intuitive Reiki master, and grief coach.
Hello, I am Autumn, a believer in miracles, intuitive guide, and psychic medium. We're your hosts and guides. We don't just talk healing, we live it. This is where soul meets strategy, spirit meets structure, and our highest selves take the mic.
Welcome, aligned souls, to this first ever episode of the Soul Revival podcast. I'm Lindsay Stanton.
And I'm Autumn Grimes.
And we are so happy to be here. We are so thrilled that the universe brought us here and to your ears to listen to this episode. This being our first episode ever, for those of you who are new to our worlds, we want to do a deep dive into what brought us here. So episode 1 is going to be me and Autumn sharing our stories and our spiritual awakenings or spiritual explosions, as it may be, at least for the case for me and actually for Autumn as well. And then episode 2 is going to be how we got divinely guided to each other and what brought us to the community that we co-founded together. So many amazing stories in these first couple episodes, and we're so excited about this podcast and all that it's bringing. There are so many things that Spirit has already shown us, brought to us, that's in alignment for all the future episodes. So welcome. We are so grateful to have you here. And I will kick off and share my story. So those of you who are unfamiliar with me, I am an author. I channeled a book with my husband on the other side, which is going to make a lot more sense after I introduce myself a little deeper. I am trained in somatic therapy. I'm a grief coach, and I'm trained in intuitive Reiki. And I use that in combination with somatics with my one-on-one clients to help them uncover what their body's showing them, to dive deep into their healing, and ultimately help them create unlimited connection with their loved ones on the other side, which at the end of the day equals healing. I am also thrilled to be the co-founder of the Soul Revival community with Autumn, and it is such a beautiful space for healing, spiritual development, and growth that we were able to launch this year, 3/30, which is a very aligned date and definitely spoke to us. And the astrology behind that date is super, super powerful and was very intentional. So that's my formal introduction. Now let me dive into my spiritual story, and then we'll get to hear Autumn's beautiful spiritual story. So I would start by saying that my whole life, I'm pretty quote unquote normal. I've worked a normal career and all the things, all the years, but my whole life, going back to when I was a kid, I would say animals were automatically drawn to me. I had so many things with wild animals and even just our own dogs and things where they were drawn into kind of my orbit and behaved in ways that normally animals don't. I remember as like probably in my early teens having a baby deer and its mother coming up to me and like touching my hand and things, and out on a walk on a trail. So I've just had this, I guess, energetic pull to the animal world, and I definitely resonate with animal energy very strongly. And once I was in my 20s and experienced my first losses, I remember very much feeling that I could call on my grandparents on the other side to have them help me. And then when I had my first, what I would consider very significant loss, it was a soul dog of mine who was, his name was Dante, which was in a very intentional name. Dante means the everlasting for those who aren't aware. And he is definitely everlasting. His and comes through to me in so many ways. he was my first real true experience of knowing that we can 1000% communicate with the other side. He was also my first known dream visit. So after he passed, I literally cried myself to sleep, and he visited me in a dream. This goes back probably almost 15 years, and I'm getting emotional just sharing this. And so he paved the way for me to know that this was possible. This type of communication was possible. And so I'm going back that early just because I think it's important. It was definitely foundational for me in knowing that it was possible. So fast forward to 2019, and actually a little before that, my husband was diagnosed with ALS, and it was very fast moving. By the time he got diagnosed, he ended up having less than a year actually here in the physical world. And we had so many conversations before he passed. I'm so grateful. And I know that's going to be a conversation in future episodes, but I'm so grateful for the time and space that we had before he passed. On one specific day, we both definitely had divine downloads when we were not together physically at the time. I'm positive we both had the same download at the same time, because once we saw each other that day, we both just had this knowingness that this was not the end, that we would forever be in a relationship and community and connection with each other, and that we were connected at a soul level always. And we had that conversation, and it set the foundation and opened the doorway. I believe it helped open the doorway for us to have immediate communication after he passed. And I'll just share the story real quick of what happened the moment he passed. So it was rush hour on a Friday. I was trying to get to him in time, but those of you who've done this work know that when our people transition, sometimes it's easier for them to transition with people really close to them not in the room. It's easier for their soul to release. And our last communication in the physical world and events in the physical world are intentional. And the night before, he and I had played 3 songs for him before he went to sleep. And I had kissed him. He had a CPAP machine, and I had done this little kiss. We had this kissing game that we did. And so I'd done it, and I had actually done it an extra time that particular night. Something called me back in to him to do the game one more time. But the last song I played for him before I left the room and he fell asleep was Keith Urban's God Whispered Your Name. And the moment he passed, I was in the car. I'm like rushing. My Bluetooth hadn't even kicked in because I just like got in the car and took off. My phone wasn't connected, nothing. And so my car was silent, and I'd gotten the call that he was close to passing. The next thing I know, my car starts loudly playing God Whispered Your Name, and I knew that was the minute he had crossed. And then immediately after, I got the phone call. That was my first sign. And I had so many powerful signs, and so much communication with him immediately. And I'm grateful for it every single day. We have literally built an in-depth communication system. And I know it took me a while to get there. It wasn't easy at the beginning of my journey to understand why. And I think anybody who's been through deep grief, you struggle with why me? Why did this happen? Why us? Why don't we get to have our years? Why don't we get to experience these things we had planned? And so the question of why is probably the biggest question. And I gradually started to uncover my why as I delved into my own path for survival and healing. And as we dive into these episodes together, a lot of my why is going to come through in conversations between Autumn and I, and conversations with our guests. I will tell you that early days, it was just all about survival. And I'm gonna openly admit that I 100% had suicidal ideations, and I'm gonna share that because I think it's really important that we have authentic conversations around grief, and we set the expectation at a level that people can meet it and know that early on it 100% is about just surviving. And for me, that was the physical act of putting one foot in front of another and listening to quieting all the outside noise, which was easy to do early in my journey because I was just 100% focused on connection and the signs that I was getting and being able to deepen that connection. And because of that, and my openness and Roger's strength as a soul, we have built this amazing communication system that is literally available to all of you. And that is my why. And I am so grateful, even though it took the deepest pain to get to this point. I am so grateful that that happened because it allowed me to see, first of all, that our relationship is limitless. And second of all, that there is a pathway for everyone to be able to build this type of communication that permanently shifts your relationship with grief. We, of course, always grieve somebody physically not being here. But when we can realize the potential instead of focusing on permanence of their physical non-existence, it shifts our grief process and transforms it monumentally. And that has 100% been my experience. And I channeled a book with Roger called The Enduring and Everlasting, and it's our personal story all along the way of our physical life together, the signs and communication I received from him along the way, and then a how-to guide. And I remember early in my journey, he communicated to me through a medium that we were going to be able to help people see grief differently and do this in a very different way. And that's 100% been the case. And I'm so, so thankful that he and I are on this journey together. And now Autumn and I are on this journey together to bring so much of that to fruition. And then I would say also just for those who received, like, had multiple losses layered upon each other, because I think that creates a very unique aspect of grief. About 8 months, actually exactly 8 months to the day after Roger passed, my closest female friend, both of them I considered my biggest cheerleaders, passed away very unexpectedly. So I understand what it's like to have traumatic grief layered on top of traumatic grief and the nuances that that creates. And I know that that also helps me, to be able to work with the people in our community and my one-on-one clients. So that is a summary of my story and what brings me here to you all today.
Lindsay, I feel so honored to be on this journey with you as a co-founder of the Soul Revival community as well. I think that you and Roger are going to be such a staple in the view of the world in the future. You guys are a powerhouse couple, and it shows that, souls never die and love has no limits. So I'm really excited to be here and, be on this journey with you. I'm so happy Roger brought us together. And for everyone that's listening today, I am Autumn. I am a psychic medium as well as a spirit guide. So I just feel that I am here to really bring people and align their spirits back to their soul, to let them know that they are the co-creators of their reality. And I am just a true believer in miracles. And I think that that's a lot of my stories is miracles. So I am just going to story tell my stories, and we'll touch base at the end. So Lindsay, I don't even know if you know this story, but when I was a little girl, I was 3 years old. My brother was getting ready to go to school for the first time, and I was very jealous. And he's like, "Hey, do you want to come play with me before I get on the bus? And I'm like, no, I'm not going to come play with you before you get on the bus. Um, and then I'm like, wait, I do want to play. So he had ran out the glass, like it was a glass storm door. And immediately I shifted my thought and I'm like, you know what? I want to go play. So I took off and the storm door, it would open, it would close, and then it would open and it would slam shut. So when I was running through the glass door, it was at the same time that the door was slamming shut. So my arms went completely through the glass door. And I just remember the trauma around that, you know, my mom bringing towels, all everything that you could imagine happened was happening. And I go to the hospital. They had a plastic surgeon from Chicago actually fly to the hospital I was at. I had over 1,000 stitches, not even including the staples. And the doctor was telling my mom to prepare for me to have a completely paralyzed arm. I would not be able to use my arm ever. It would, you know, just to plan for therapy and things like that. Um, Fast forward to today, my arm is completely fine. I do have like a scar completely that goes all the way up my arm. But it was a miracle. It was a complete miracle that my arm operates fully. But I do remember in eighth grade, and I want to say this story because we recognize energy, right? The physical being is great, but really, besides that, energy is such an important part of our human existence. And so in eighth grade, I have this teacher, right? And I'm like, I know you. Like, I don't know how I know you, but I know you. And she's like, no. And we're going through our family timeline. And, you know, I just never gave up the thought that I knew her, but I just didn't understand how. And later in that school year, she was talking about her previous jobs. And one of them was, she was like an ambulance person that would, an EMT. And she's telling this story about how one of the worst stories she ever had was when a little girl ran through a glass door. And she's like, but that little girl had so much strength. She's like, you think that she would be crying, but she was just in a joy-filled state that she got stuffed animals that I kept handing her. And I'm like, that is how I know her. She was the person that was taking care of me. And although I didn't remember what she looked like, I remembered that energy exchange that we had. Um, and so you know, life happens, all of these signs in between that energy is all around us. I was always connected to source, always connected to source. It was like a safety ground for me. And so I had a best friend, and he was the other safety part of my life. Like I felt like he was my home. And he had passed away in a car accident in 2018. And that is when I really realized, oh my goodness, I can communicate to the other side. He was bringing through so many signs, symbols. I was hearing his actual voice. And I have a daughter here on Earth. She's 8 years old now. We were at a bookstore when she was about 3, and we're going through, and she's starting to get tired, and she gets her books, and then she starts throwing an ultimate tantrum, right? And I'm like, okay, this is my fault. I shouldn't have took her to a bookstore when it was nap time, but you know, we'll get the books and we'll get home. So I scoop her up and I'm grabbing the books and she's kicking her feet and a book falls off the bookshelf. And it was like it was a bookshelf that was like on clearance. So it was all different books up there. And I'm like, you know what? I just grabbed the book and I check out with it and I was gonna return it the next day, but just didn't have time to put it back. And so then I get home and I'm like, what was that book? And the book was literally titled You Are Psychic. You Are Psychic. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to read this book. Like, I have to read the first chapter at least. And that was my journey through meditation. And boy, did meditation help me so incredibly much, connect so much stronger. Meditation really creates a space between your mental mind and your heart, and it changed my life. Meditation completely changed my life. My triggers minimized, and I felt like I was one with all that is, right? Like I literally felt that my consciousness was the same as tree consciousness, animal consciousness, and it is, right? So I'm living this life. I'm like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. And my family, my husband and I decided to start trying for another child. And I know that infertility is so hard on a lot of women nowadays. And, so many women want to conceive, and so many doctors tell them that they can't, and then they stop trying. They lose that belief, right? And this is why I hope my story touches the people's hearts that need to hear it, because um, I am a true believer in miracles. And so my husband and I get pregnant, and I go in, everything, we're so happy. My daughter's so happy. She's like, I'm gonna have a sibling. And we were hit with an ectopic pregnancy. So I had lost my right fallopian tube, but the doctor said all was well, I could try again. And we're trying. It's a lot of fun trying. I'm telling you what, it's a lot of fun. And so we get pregnant again. We tell our daughter, and we go to the doctors, and we're getting checked out. And this time, the pregnancy was on the outside of my uterus. So the previous doctor did not take the fallopian tube all the way, and um, the baby had traveled outside of the fallopian tube and attached to the outside of my uterus. So they had to do surgery. It's similar to a C-section surgery, to remove the fetus. And the broken heart of my daughter was probably the hardest thing to overcome. And just, the feeling of losing that feminine energy of like, why can't I do this? Like everyone else is having baby showers, and here I am, loss after loss. And to touch base back on my daughter, she was a twin as well. So I had lost her sister in the process of um, the pregnancy process. So then I'm like, I don't want to try again. I don't want to try again. This is my second topic, but I had to try again. Something inside of me was like, Autumn, you are meant to have this soul. You are meant to have this experience again. And so, we try again, because I had all the testing done. I went through extra testing to make sure that everything was going to be fine. The doctor reassured me so many times, Autumn, everything is fine. Your uterus is fine. The baby is going to be perfectly in there. He's going to make a little home in there. You're going to be fine. So, the strength of that, and just imagining that, we try again. Just to find out that, and this time we didn't tell Mackenzie. We didn't tell her. We just wanted to make sure everything was okay. We didn't really tell a lot of people, actually. And the third time, the baby was again absorbed through my uterus this time. So this was another C-section surgery, where they had to remove the fetus, but this time I hemorrhaged during surgery. My uterus completely split. And when I had woken up, they had told me that I wouldn't be able to have any more babies. My uterus is not strong enough to carry a fetus for 9 months. And God whispered to me, Autumn, you have the tools. You have the tools. Don't confine yourself to that story. The more we say, I am, it makes it truth. So I sat in Reiki energy every single morning, praying in oneness, sending rainbow energy. It was rainbow energy to my uterus, seeing my uterus strengthen. And this time we weren't trying. We were done, but I wanted to heal my uterus, right? And then come to find out, in May of 2024, I am pregnant again. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't want to go to my gyno. He told me that I wouldn't be able to carry children, but something was just so different in this energy. I knew, like I knew it was a soul that was ready to cross here on earth. And so I go to my first doctor's appointment, because they put me on top of the list because of all the previous topics. And my due date was February 14th of 2025. So that was extreme validation of like, okay, this soul is going to make it over. And Lindsay, they always say closing out cycles, right? Like you close out cycles, you close out cycles. every ectopic pregnancy I had, all three of them, the cycle was closed out. And that could be another episode on this podcast because it's absolutely phenomenal the way that God closed those for me to heal the way that I needed to heal properly, to experience the joy of this little soul that was born on January 23rd of 2025. My uterus was strong enough to carry an 8-pound, 5-ounce baby, and I had him at 36 weeks. Mind you, everyone's story is different, but I truly am a believer in miracles. And when you put your faith in Jesus first and let go of all of the conditioning of the self doubts of not being able to, God can do so much powerful things, and he's always constantly wanting to bring the most to each and every soul here. You are his children, you are a part of him. He wants to bring you miracles. So now I have one daughter and one son, and we are just basking in the energy of love right now. And yeah, that's my story. And I hope that it resonates with someone and someone feels a little inspiration from that as well.
Oh, I love your story so much. And I love that I was able to live that experience with you and witness the energy and knowing that your little guy was coming through. And I completely agree with you. And for those who are new to either one of us, if the term God doesn't resonate with you, God, source, the universe, whatever term calls to you, we use them interchangeably, but whatever calls to you, I would say God, source, energy, and the angelic realm. I call on the angelic realm so often, and there's so much power. They can bring through so much miracles, so much healing. I mean, it's phenomenal when you put your energy in to the vibration of trust and love and openness. What's available to you is truly miraculous. And Autumn and I both have witnessed it and lived it so many times, really on a daily basis, actually. And so, yeah, I love your story so much. And I feel like both of us having, and so many people, trauma, grief, a combination of both has been the catalyst of their awakening journey. But I think it's just proof that it can shift you and open you. And at the end of the day, that cracking you wide open is like ultimately what allows you to receive and communicate with the other side. And no matter what way, like if it's your loved ones, your angels, God, source energy, it's all available to all of us to call on, and they're here willing and able to help us. We of course have free will, so they're waiting for us to call on them, but it's so beautiful.
Yeah, they are way closer than we could ever even imagine. They are here, and it is our free will to feel them and to invite them in and to bring that other side here on earth. And Christ consciousness, all of it, it's all intertwined, and it's just a magical energy to be in. And I really hope that this podcast and our stories and our guests bring that clarity to people that are weary of it, because it's a comfort. It's safe, and it feels like home once you get there.
100%. And I would say, just kind of take that full scope with the experiences, thinking people coming from all different backgrounds, myself included. I actually went to Catholic school as a kid, and no matter what your experience with traditional religion or your spiritual journey, I would say there's more commonality and there's a deep through line for all of it, spirituality and formal religion. So no matter what your background or what perspective you're coming from, this is all just divine, high vibrational energy. And that is 100% what this podcast is about. It's what our community is about. It's what Autumn and I's sacred offerings are about. It's all 100% high vibrational, heart centered energy, love and light energy. That is what you're going to get here from us. That's what we both deliver.
I am so excited, Lindsay. I'm so excited for our listeners. I'm so excited for us, our first podcast. Here we are, our first podcast episode. Here we are. And I'm excited to see what the second one turns out to be. And for all of our listeners, I'm so excited for you guys to be here. So thank you.
Yes. So thank you for joining us for episode number 1. You're going to learn even more deeper things about us in episode 2. So we will see you next week.
If today's words stirred something in you, that's no coincidence. Your soul is speaking and it's ready to be heard. If you resonated with today's episode, Spirit is cheering you on, encouraging you. Start choosing yourself again. Start saying yes to your healing and join our sacred community over at www.thesoulrevival.com.
Because healing is better when we do it together. If you love this episode, be sure to hit follow, leave a review, and share this with someone who's ready to return to their soul self. Thank you, Aligned Souls.